All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Twyman, the biohacking cardiologist. Tonight, we're going to be talking about sleep optimization and more likely, hit on the kind of the tips and tricks on how to optimize your sleep. So we'll give people a couple minutes to log on here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So while we're waiting for people to log on, just put in the comment box where you're logging on to from tonight, and also if you have a question about sleep, start putting them in the questions, and I'll answer them as I go tonight. All right. Dr. Ruff, thank you for joining, sir. Good to see you. I'm back in America. I missed your text. I was down in Mexico celebrating the Thanksgiving. So, yeah. I got the yeah. I'll definitely be sending you some pictures after this chat. So, we'll get started here. So, again, welcome everybody. I'm Dr. Twyman, board certified cardiologist, a biohacker and health optimizer. Tonight we're going to talk about sleep optimization, give you my best tips and tricks on how to improve your own sleep. So, there's 4 pillars of health. Most people know about nutrition and exercise, and we'll hit upon some of the bullet points, but really, sleep is the key to longevity. If you don't sleep well, you're not going to age well. And we'll talk about how you can, figure out what those metrics are. So, first off, if people need a good book reference, I highly, highly recommend the book by Dr. Matthew Walker called Why We Sleep. I'm halfway through it again on Audible. Excellent book on explaining the history of sleep and why, if you don't sleep well, you're not going to age well. So, what is sleep? That's a more philosophical question than I dare to kind of dig into too much tonight, but sleep is more than just the absence of being conscious. And there's maybe some thoughts that actually sleep was primordial. You were initially asleep and then developed consciousness to go get more nutrients, to get more complex. But essentially, how do you define sleep? Well, it's the time when you're laying horizontal, you can be startled awake. If you can't be startled awake, you're either in a coma or dead. So that differentiates, unconsciousness from sleep. And then there's also, if you have a little EEG wires in your head, you can see different brain waves, and different brain waves can tell you if you're more likely in sleep or if you're under anesthesia or in a persistent vegetative state. So sleep, how much time? It really depends on where you're at in your life stages. But typically babies and kids are going to need more hours, but once you're an adult, 8 hours is probably about what you truly optimally need. You may say, I can get by on 6. That might be true, but you might be shortchanging yourself. There are different phases of sleep. I won't go too deep into those tonight, but essentially there's non-REM sleep and there's REM sleep. REM sleep is when your eyes are darting back and forth, and that's generally the time that you're dreaming. But both stages of sleep are important. If they weren't important, Mother Nature would have kind of filtered those out, and we would have gotten rid of those. So non-REM sleep typically happens the first part of the night. REM sleep typically happens the second part of the night. They both do happen, but the majority of the time is in those time frames. And so sleep cycles are generally 90 minutes long. Close your eyes. You're in stage 1, 2, 3, 4 of deep non-REM sleep. Then you may kick into REM sleep for a while, and then those cycles repeat. Different parts of the brains get repaired with different types of sleep quality, and over time, the REM sleep kind of wins at the end of the night. So if you only sleep 6 hours, you may only cut off 25% of your sleep, but you're cutting off like 50 or 75% of your REM sleep, and it's the REM sleep that if you cut it out, you'll tend to die faster. So they don't do these experiments anymore, even in animals, but they sleep deprive these different animals, and they had complete, couldn't sleep at all. Those animals died, I think, like in 8 or 9 days. Then they selectively, cut out REM sleep and selectively cut out non-REM sleep. The non-REM ones, they lasted about 20 days, but the REM ones died by like 9 or 10 days. So, all sleep stages are important. But if you have to selectively get less of it, you probably don't want to be skipping the morning time, especially. So we'll go deeper into some other topics on sleep in the future weeks. Generally do 2 or 3 topics a month, and we'll hit sleep multiple times. We'll talk about kind of the cardiovascular benefits of sleep and other sleep disorders, obstructive sleep apnea, insomnia, restless leg. We'll do those in later weeks. I also wanted to share my tips and tricks with you guys tonight. So first, you guys have seen me wearing these blue blocking glasses since 2017. So we'll go retro, and I'll go put on the original pair. So these were the True Dark original pair that I got when I went to Thailand and Bhutan in 2017. If you haven't heard the story, this is how I got into all this funky red light and biohacking. So my wife wanted to go to Bhutan, where the happiest people in the world live. It's about a 14-hour flight from where I'm at in St. Louis. I just wanted to figure out how not to die from jet lag trying to get over there. So read some interesting posts about blue blocking glasses. Did not understand the science at that point. Wore the glasses on the plane. Wore these initially, but then when I got on the plane and it was, quote, nighttime to my body in Thailand, I switched to my Terminator red ones. And these ones, they look insane, especially when you're wearing them in public and you don't know exactly what people are going to do when they see you wearing these. But miraculously, the flight attendants left me alone. I slept on the plane. And then when I got over to Thailand, the jet lag was probably about 1/3 as bad as it should have been. So I thought, man, there must be something to this light blocking stuff. Let me read the science. And it's all about your circadian rhythm. Circadian is around a day. Your natural circadian rhythm gets reset every day in response to different Zeitgebers. I like saying that word, a German word for time giver. 2 main Zeitgebers, there's a couple others, but the 2 main ones are the light that enters your eyes and hits your skin, and then also the time that the nutrients come into your system. There's some other ones, different temperatures, time to exercise, can have a different role as well for setting your 24-hour cycle. But light is the most powerful. So an optimal day would be you'd be up whenever your kind of chronotype allows you to be up. But if you're up before sunrise, you ideally would wear these glasses, not be staring at your phone. I'll tell you why in a minute. But you evolved in darkness, and that sun set your cycle for the day. So sun rises, you should be outside, let the sun hit your eyes, 15, 20 minutes, longer, better, but that light hit your eyes, hit something behind your eyes called the supracosmatic nucleus, which is basically your master GPS clock. It sets all the rest of the neurotransmitters, hormones, how they're going to get released for the day. Then when you're inside, wearing these glasses, when you're in front of screens with artificial backlight, that backlight is approximately 4 to 5 times more intense in blue light than it is in red light. That's one of the reasons I have one of these photobiomodulation devices fired up right now. The red somewhat balances out a little bit of the blue, but blue light from your technology tells your brain it's noontime, spikes your cortisol, and keeps you awake. That's fine during the daytime for the most part, but your body's also making melatonin throughout the day. It doesn't get released until there's 3 to 4 hours of darkness. So ideally, if the sun sets, you would have been in darkness other than campfire. If you didn't have light, you typically would fall asleep within 3 or so hours after sunset. And there's somebody on this call tonight that I've been out sailing with a few times. And you think you're going to be out all night having a good time. Sunsets and everybody's falling asleep at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night because your circadian rhythms get so tuned to the light cycles and fairly quickly. But anyway, after sunset, you put on these glasses if you weren't already. And then typically I switch over to the darker ones about an hour or so before I want to go to sleep. These are very sensitive for me. I'll fall asleep if I put them on too early, but you can wear them pretty much any time after sunset because it blocks all the blue light, blocks all the red light, starts on your brain, get ready for sleep. Lets melatonin start to get released from the pineal gland. And then melatonin is the hormone of darkness, or the vampire hormone. It's the hormone that initiates sleep, tells your body start getting ready to sleep. Taking oral melatonin is not the same as your body releasing it. And there is some concern that if you take oral melatonin too much, you can actually thin out the retina and cause some problems. So, short term, or you're jet lagged and you're trying to reset your circadian rhythms using melatonin, may be okay. But talk to your doctor. Make sure it's right for you, kind of thing. So that's kind of the light environment for what you can do with your eyes. In your home. I've given previous talks. It's up on my Instagram, but I've done talks previously on kind of different light bulbs you can have in your house. This is just a cheap $10, $15 bulb you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's. these red bulbs, kind of make your house look like a submarine at nighttime, or a old school photo booth developer. But that red light doesn't stimulate your eyes as much, so you're not going to be spiking cortisol that keeps you awake. So the other thing that you need to do to kind of control the circadian rhythms is the timing that your nutrients come in. You literally have these clocks in front of every gene, and they get turned on by, one, the supracosmic nucleus talking to them, but the liver and gut ones, they really are programmed by the time that the nutrients come in. And so you ideally don't want to have any nutrients coming into your system 3 to 4 hours before you go to sleep. That gives your body the time to kind of flip the switch into repair mode versus, if you eat at 10 o'clock at night and go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, your body's going to wait 3 to 4 hours thinking, well, maybe more nutrients are coming in. And you're going to get short shift on your sleep quality. So those are kind of my usual circadian rhythm tips. I've done previous talks about it. Go back and look at those ones if you want a little bit more depth details for that. But light blocking glasses, consider a red light bulb, to the main room that you're in. And then really kind of control your light environments at night by start shutting off your technology with screens if you can an hour or two before you go to bed. That's maybe not always possible, but turn on iris or f-lux, or triple click red your phone so that you're really dialing down a lot of the blue. It doesn't block it out enough, so you still do need to protect your eyes with some type of lens if you're going to be using technology with screens or having a bunch of artificial lights on. Now, what else can you do? Well, I mentioned melatonin, mentioned cortisol in passing, but there's 3 really big things that you need to know about what helps start the sleep process. So one of them things is called adenosine. Your body's making tons of this stuff throughout the day. You need to put the adenosine together to make ATP or energy currency. But for a sleep context, think of it as kind of the sleep pressure, pressure cooker. As you wake up, adenosine starts building up. Once it gets high enough, generally about after 16 hours, that pressure is going to be the thing that tells you start falling asleep. So caffeine blocks the adenosine receptor. So caffeine can make you feel alert, but that adenosine is still building up behind the dam. When the caffeine wears off, then that's when you get that caffeine withdrawal, or I should say, just the caffeine bonk or wore off, and you get that intense sleepiness unless you re-bolus with caffeine. Caffeine is definitely going to affect the quality of sleep. 60% of people are slow metabolizers of caffeine. It's going to be having a more effect on their sleep. So typically, I recommend patients minimize caffeine if they don't sleep optimally, or at least finish it way early in the morning, at least 12 hours before they're thinking about going to bed. The other big thing is alcohol. I'm not going to be here and tell you need to be a teetotaler, but you'll definitely notice that if you drink alcohol close to bed, it's going to affect your sleep. Yes, you'll be unconscious, but you're not having high quality restorative sleep. Alcohol, has many effects on the body, but from a sleep standpoint, really destroys your REM sleep. So you may have had this experience that if you've had a little bit too much to drink, you pass out and you wake up the next day and don't really remember exactly what happened that evening. And you may have been unconscious 8-10 hours, but you don't feel well resting. You don't feel like you can go out and do what you want to normally do from a mental standpoint. So alcohol is really kind of thrashing your REM sleep. If you're really fancy, tracking your sleep, you can get a Oura ring, O-U-R-A. I've had one since the original Kickstarter version. That was a huge moon ring. This one's about the size of a wedding band. I don't wear this all day long. I don't need to track my fitness, and I don't like having electronic devices on my body because of electromagnetic frequency that they emit. So I will put this in airplane mode, wear it some nights of the week, and take some measurements. Big things that it measures is the time in bed, measures your sleep efficiency, so how long were you asleep, and then it has some algorithms that try to determine how much non-REM sleep versus REM sleep. It's going to be comparable in quality to a sleep study, but gives you some directional ideas of where things are for at least you. Can't really compare it between people, but if your numbers are getting much worse, then there probably actually was an effect. And it's really good to kind of see trends. I've been using this device for 3+ years, so I kind of know what's going to destroy my sleep. If I eat too late, if you have to drink alcohol too late, if you exercise too late because you kind of raise your body temperature, that can affect what. So I know it will kind of break my sleep, but you'll notice that you have bad sleep when you have a higher resting heart rate a lower heart rate variability, your respiratory rate goes up, and your temperature goes up. So temperature is one of the things that can help as well to kind of initiate sleep. Typically, you're going to sleep better in a cooler environment than a warm environment. The body temperature dropping is a signal to the brain, start getting into sleep. So personally, I dial down the air temperature to 68 degrees or cooler, and then I also have a fancy chili pad that sits on top of the mattress, and you can dial it in to 55 degrees Fahrenheit up to 110 Fahrenheit. So I've tried 55 before. It is so cold, you're gonna roll out of the bed and get away from the thing if you can. So I usually leave it in the upper 60s. I'm gonna use it some nights. Sometimes I play around with it just to see if it improves. Most of the time I notice if I do use it, my deep sleep improves. If you don't have access to a chili pad, that's fine. This is the old wives' tale. A hot bath, helps you sleep. It's not actually the warmth of the bath that's helping you sleep. It's that your skin and all this stuff is warm, and then you dump all that heat off, and it's that dropping in temperature that initiates the sleep. So it's the cooling off. Some people, really say they have really cold hands and feet. I'm not a huge fan personally of wearing gloves or socks to bed, but there's some data that if you especially wear socks, you can kind of help those arteries and the small blood vessels kind of get warm enough that they vasodilate, and then they act like the radiator dumping off heat into the environment, and that may help with your sleep. So wearing socks to bed isn't the end all of sleep if you wear socks to bed. Then after cool in the bedroom, should be dark, should be as dark as possible. Ideally not seeing your hand in front of your face. I have a cheap pair of blackout curtains. I think I got from Lowe's for $15. They're like the little paper ones that just kind of fold down, and they're sit in front of the slat blinds. The room is pretty dark. Then pretty hardcore. I have electrical tape, and just tape anything that is not there's not a red light. So you want to avoid all the little flashing LEDs in your room. All the little green, blue ones and stuff, and turn those things down by putting tape over them if you can. So now it's dark. If you can't get it dark enough, then get a nice pair of eye mask. This particular one's from Blue Blocks. I just liked it when I was used to travel more. Got a nice little cushion, and it kind of really cuts out everything. It doesn't put pressure on the eyelids themselves. So get a pair of those. You want your bedroom to be quiet. Some white noise is fine, but you definitely don't want to have any auditory sounds, that are music or TV or anything like that. That stuff's going to be imprinting into your subconscious and maybe keeping your cortisol levels high, keeping you more amped up. So white noise is fine, a fan or a white noise machine or ocean sound type thing is going to be fine, but you don't want to be playing anything else probably at night. And that goes into the TV. Honestly, you should not have a TV in your bedroom. You should associate your bedroom with a place to go to sleep. Sleep and intimacy are the only two things you should be considering in the bedroom. If you associate, getting in bed with reading a book or watching TV, you may not sleep as well. So leave your TV outside your bedroom. When you get sleepy, after wearing your glasses, going to bed, your body associates going into that room to go to sleep. So dark, cold, quiet, those are really the keys. Get a sleep cave all set up. And then talk a little bit about adenosine, so avoid the caffeine if you're not sleeping optimally. And then I've talked about nutrition. Don't eat 3 to 4 hours before bed. Exercise. This is an exercise talk, but exercise, the more you do, the better you tend to sleep. But don't do exercise too close to bed because it can raise your temperature, and that may have an effect on your initiating the sleep. And depending on what your goals of exercise are going to depend on what time of day you should exercise. If you're trying to go for a personal record or world record, the data, and I got this fact out of the Why We Sleep book. The majority of world records are set between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. During Olympic events. So if you're trying to go for the best, that's probably the best time for you to exercise, but otherwise just get in throughout the day, just not too close to bedtime. But the big kind of canary in the coal mine is stress. Everybody has stress in their environment, but it's how do you react to it? Cortisol, one of your stress hormones, can definitely have an effect on your sleep quality. That's your fight or flight response when your cortisol is very high. Cortisol is going to raise your blood sugar, keep you alert. So you got to figure out how do you, naturally cortisol, is rising up 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, get you ready for the day. You go outside, you see natural sunlight through your eyes, that blue light from the sun tells your brain it's daytime, cortisol keeps rising, and then in the afternoon starts kind of coming back down. And as cortisol is going down, melatonin's coming up, so they're kind of like a seesaw. If cortisol is always high, melatonin can be suppressed, and you're not going to be able to probably initiate sleep, or if you can fall asleep, it's really hard for you to stay asleep. So find something that lowers your cortisol. So again, that can be the exercise earlier in the day, your stress reliever, great. Meditation, yoga. One of my favorite things to teach patients or use myself is the HeartMath device. HeartMath clips to your ear, plug it into your phone, and it runs off a little program with these different deep breathing exercises. It's measuring your heart rate variability. The better your heart rate variability, the closer your parasympathetic is to your sympathetic. And if that's true, then that's bringing cortisol down. So HeartMath is, 5 minutes a day for 6 weeks. You're going to significantly notice a difference in your stress levels and likely your sleep. All right. So I think that's all the show and tell stuff I had for you guys tonight. I do appreciate your attention, and I'll open it up to questions now. All right. Hey, Chris, thanks for joining. All right. Let me see. Scrolling up to the top here. All right. I think I saw somebody here. Is there anything I do for cold feet at night? Struggle all winter with cold feet. Yeah, this was the thing I said a little bit earlier. I'm not a fan of it for myself, but wear a nice warm pair of socks. That helps dilate the small blood vessels in the feet, and then can help with sleep. The other trick I've heard people say is get a like a hot water bottle and put it down by your feet, and then as it kind of cools down, then you can start initiating sleep a little bit better. Question: what is the name of that sleep ring? It's OURA, Oura. It's fairly sensitive for measuring what I want it to do. There are other ones. Whoop is another one. I actually just acquired one today on the Cyber Monday sale. I don't have it yet, but it does track sleep as well. And I'm going to kind of try to compare them head to head, and I'll share my info with you guys. All right. And then, HeartMath. That's how you spell it. Sounds like just as it is, but there's a couple different devices. This is called the Inner Balance. HeartMath is the software. The device itself is probably about $100. The software is free once you acquire the device, and they do have something called the M-Wave. It's kind of like a standalone thing if you don't want to have one that plugs into your phone. But I found this one to be very useful. It's very portable, folds up in a little bag, and you can go and do what you want to do with it. All right. So we're waiting for any other questions in. Thank you, guys. Any questions about sleep gear, sleep hygiene? All right. While we're waiting for other questions to come in, then why don't you shoot me some comments about what other topics you want me to hit in future weeks. I'll probably do a couple more sleep ones because I've been, pounding some podcasts on sleep and reading some more books. So probably next week will be about heart health and sleep. Question. Mouth taping. That's I assume what they said instead of mouth tap. I've tried it during daytime hours only. I've not yet tried the evening all night. honestly probably am more of a mouth breather at times, so it'll have to be kind of a conscious thing that I play around with. But there's some data that your sleep quality can improve if you tape your mouth shut. But that's kind of the caveats. Don't be sick while you're doing that. Don't be on any type of sleeping medications or sedatives or alcohol, or something that's more likely to have you being throwing up. So try it out during the daytime first. Make sure you can tolerate it, and if so, then give it a shot. What kind of mattress do I like? It's going to be dependent on people's own preferences, but I personally like a organic latex mattress. Doesn't off gas. It's probably has a 20-year shelf life. Thing's super durable. It's super heavy, but I like it because it dissipates heat well. I know some of the kind of like Tempur-Pedics, they really sometimes hold on to a lot of the body heat. And so, they're comfortable to kind of sink down into, but then you feel like you're like baking in the thing. So you do want to be supported. It doesn't necessarily matter exactly, sleep on your side, back, or belly. It's whatever's most comfortable. But typically you do want your back supported, so you don't want to be caved into a little dent in the bed. So somebody just got on. So somebody's asking, what is the O-ring? O-ring is just one of the sleep tracking devices. They're one of the leaders in this space. It's not going to be as sensitive as a sleep study, but it gives you a decent track of time in bed, your sleep efficiency. So time in bed, how much of that are you actually asleep? Should be ideally over 90%. And it will split down your non-REM sleep versus your REM sleep, your dream sleep. And then the numbers that you really want to look at is your kind of resting heart rate at night, your heart rate variability. The heart rate variability is the beat-to-beat difference between your heartbeats, your body temperature, and then also your respiratory rate. If one of those four things starts going off the rails, that can be a sign that you're overtraining if you're an exerciser, or it can be a sign that potentially you're getting sick with a virus. So you'd be on the more lookout. So your heart rate variability and body temperature will actually change on this maybe a couple of days before you actually clinically start showing signs. So that's one of the reasons I've been using it more during these past few months. Somebody's asking, is it 8 hours of real sleep according to Fitbit, or 8 hours of what I think is sleep? That's a good thing. I have not played with the most couple of recent versions of Fitbit. I think the last one I have was the Fitbit Charge, and it didn't do that great of a job on sleep tracking. So it's what I think the newer ones are doing a better job. But typically, these ones just kind of confirm what you already know. So I always kind of say, the cheap way to do it is, wake up in the morning, give yourself a score 1 to 10. What was the quality of sleep? If it's a 10 out of 10, then whatever you did the night before was right. If you wake up, say, I feel horrible, I feel like I'm gonna be in bed the rest of the day, then you gotta figure out what broke your sleep. 2 metrics also that are pretty well validated is when you wake up, if you think you could go back to bed at 10 or 11 a.m. for a nap, then you didn't have good high quality sleep the night before. The other one is if you think you need to start pounding caffeine in the morning to wake up for the day, then you also probably didn't have good quality sleep. Question, about magnetical sleep pad. That's of course you're one that would actually know what that is. That's a high level biohacker secret sleeping pad. The magnetical sleep pad isn't something that I would say is sleep hygiene 101. That's like the master's course. But the magnetical sleep pad is something that lays on top of the bed, and it helps the body basically sense nighttime. During the day, when the sun is out, the sun hits the earth, the magnetic fields are decreased, and at nighttime, the magnetic fields are supposed to come back up. And that's another one of those somewhat zeitgeisters that tells the body what time of day it is. But now with the ubiquitous EMFs that are in the environment, cell phones and everything else, Wi-Fi, the magnetic fields are somewhat blocked. And so the body has a hard time sensing that. So Magnetico tries to help with that. So I don't recommend the average person go out and get a Magnetico. A couple of reasons. They're super expensive and they're super heavy for the most part. They're going to be a couple $1,000s for this sleep pad. But if you're somebody who is fairly ill with some type of cancer, autoimmune condition, severe, cardiovascular issues, heart failure, might be something reasonable if it can help improve your sleep quality. It's something that helps the mitochondria make energy more efficiently. I don't know for sure I answer this one. Does sleep position affect your sleep quality? For the most part, I think it's, whatever's most comfortable for you. Some people have more orthopedic issues that kind of limit, which position they can lay in. So, I think as long as it's not, causing you to have your airway collapse and you're snoring, I think whichever way is most comfortable, you should shoot for. And if I learn more as I re-listen to this book, I'll put an update next week. And question, for those that wake up at 3 a.m., is it best to just lay there until you need to get up or get up and use a red light? So I don't know exactly the kind of the context. I will just, give it saying like, so you're going to bed at 10 p.m. and your goal was to get up at 6 a.m., to give yourself a full 8 hours, but you wake up at 3 and say, I can't go back to sleep. So you can have either kind of sleep onset insomnia or sleep maintenance insomnia. I talked about earlier, make sure you don't have any caffeine in the system. Don't be drinking alcohol until what's affecting your sleep. But if you've done all the kind of light hygiene, you've had your blue blockers on, you've dialed down the blue light technology use at night, and you're still having trouble, can it be melatonin? Sure. I wouldn't recommend always supplementing with melatonin, but the general rule of thumb is if you wake up in the middle of the night. Side note, if you're a woman, get progesterone checked. Many times if you're perimenopausal or menopausal and have extremely low progesterone, that can be another thing that really causes you to wake up in the middle of the night. If you're waking up because you're night sweats and hot, maybe a chili pad would be something that would help with that. But typically, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't fall back asleep within 20 minutes, you should get out of bed and go do something non-stimulating. Don't get up and go, watch TV or play around on your phone. Go read a magazine or a paper book, and then when you get tired again, then you go back to bed. If you got up, I would put the glasses on and only use red light to illuminate whatever area I was going to be in. I've heard it said on a couple of podcasts by Dr. Walker. He has a good one. He's like, why would you lay in bed just hoping that sleep comes on? It'd be the same as sitting at the dinner table waiting to get hungry. So you want to always associate that bed is where you're going to sleep. If you lay in bed and ruminate about can't go to sleep, I can't go to sleep, I can't go to sleep, you kind of make that negative loop, and then you're not going to be able to associate that bed with sleep. So if you can't fall asleep within 20-ish minutes in your mind, and that's side note, ideally you should not have a clock in your bedroom that you can see. Yes, you may need to set an alarm, fine, but keep your alarm on the other side of the room. When it goes off, get up and go use it. But it's not going to help you know that it's 2 a.m. and oh my goodness, I gotta get up at 5 a.m. If you can't sleep and you're just laying there, get up, go do something kind of restful, and then when you get tired, go back in there. This is a good point. I have not done the research myself on them, but somebody's commented, the Sleep Number beds have an app that you can use to get some sleep metrics. Would that system interfere with sleep? Highly likely. I personally wouldn't be a huge fan of having some type of strip under myself that's plugged into the wall that's making measurements, because then you're basically pulling EMFs straight into your system while you're sleeping. And that's when your mitochondria, the organelles in your cells that make energy for you, that's when they're sensing the environment, trying to do repair. And if they're kind of getting radar jammed by technology, they're not going to do as good of a job. So that's one of the reasons why I don't recommend this, lightly, the Oura Ring. Even in airplane mode, there's going to be some small levels of EMFs. So if you're very sensitive or don't have super great sleep, this is probably not something you want to wear long term. Maybe do a spot check if you need to see like, okay, if I ate too late, how bad is it? And then once you know what's your triggers, you don't need to wear the thing. All right, and I'm getting some questions from a Zoom call. So somebody has some concerns about nocturia or getting up in the middle of the night to urinate. First off, if you're a man and it's a prostate issue, just check to see if it's, something that, a medication can help the prostate relax and you can actually get the urine out, before you go to bed. So, kind of the water hygiene, where you don't drink water, 4 hours before bed. And also, you really want to make sure your circadian rhythms are fine-tuned. Yes, your kidneys are going to make some urine while you sleep, but your kidneys shouldn't be making so much urine that you got to wake up to keep peeing. So that sometimes wake up in the middle of the night multiple times is a sign that your circadian rhythms are really mismatched. So wear your blue blocking glasses, don't eat too late in the evening time, and let those kidneys know, oh, it is nighttime, I should be shutting down and not making so much urine. But if you get up in the middle of the night, a couple of things. Falls are one of the worst things for elderly people to break their hips and cause a lot of morbidity and mortality. So if you're getting up in the middle of the night, have some motion detected lights, ideally red motion detected lights. A company called Gimba Red makes some of them. There's a couple other companies that make them. Or have a red flashlight to shine your way to the restroom. Don't have a bunch of rugs that you can trip over, and then do what you need to do and go back to bed. My one room that I have here, the restroom setup, it's all red lights. It doesn't even have any lights in it that couldn't be red, so it looks like a submarine if you go up there any time of day. So this is going to be more of a question probably for next week. I'll just touch upon it, but do I have any recommendations for someone who does at home sleep studies and who makes jaw position devices to open airways for better sleep? Yeah, that is one of the things that can be used for sleep apnea. We'll talk more deeply about sleep apnea next week. But yeah, if you sleep and your bed partner tells you snore or stop breathing, you need a sleep study. If you wake up in the middle of the day, I should say wake up in the morning, don't feel like you rested, you have headaches, you may have sleep apnea. There's a test called Stop Bang, STOPBANG. It's free online. Gives you an idea if you're more likely that you have sleep apnea. If the score is abnormal, you should go talk to your healthcare provider and get a sleep study. If you're here in St. Louis or you know where I'm at, I do home sleep studies for my patients as well. And there's different treatment options. If it's more mild, mandibular devices may be an option for you. It's kind of like a mouth guard that pulls your jaw open. All right. Question, am I a fan of using white noise machines to sleep? Personally, I am. I typically just use a fan just to help kind of push the air around the room. I am still turning on central air to kind of cool down to 68 degrees. I don't have a dedicated white noise machine other than the fan, but I would stick to just the white noise machine or ocean crashing or rain, something that's Mother Nature sounds. I would avoid radios and TV noises that can imprint the subconscious. Perfect room temp, it's probably in the mid-60s or below is optimal. And typically it's something that you can hack it with doing a sauna before bed, getting hot and then cooling off, warm bath, warm shower. You can also take a cold Wim Hof type shower right before bed. It's painful in ways to make yourself do it, but your sleep quality tends to improve. I've done it. I always hated it, like 9:30 at night, jumping in a cold shower for 5 minutes. But the deep sleep significantly improved on the Oura Ring when I would do that. So I do that every once in a while if I needed to get a high quality night of sleep. Question about air filters for sleep. I just haven't done enough research to be able to give you a great idea which ones would be better than others. But yeah, you definitely don't want to have indoor air pollution that would affect your sleep quality. So I don't think you necessarily need to go for the super expensive ionizing ozone ones, but just a nice air filter for your HVAC system is probably bare minimum. And if you want a specific one for your room, depending on what your situation is, I don't think that's bad. But personally, I would not want to have the air filter super close to the bed itself because of the electromagnetic frequencies the thing might put off. So I'd keep it maybe outside the bedroom. There's a question. I don't know the absolute difference. I know that it's a different frequency. Somebody has a question. Is pink noise better than white noise? I've briefly heard Matthew Walker talk about it. I just honestly don't know what the exact difference is for it. He's talking about some crazy stuff that in the future they're going to have these transcranial stimulation devices that will be listening to the deep waves of sleep And then as the wave is going down, it's going to ping with a very small voltage and try to make the waves deeper. The deeper the waves, the better memory consolidation. And as people age, 60-70% of it will lose the intensity of those deep waves. So they might be able to kind of artificially boost them. But if you're not measuring the waves coming out, you can't just put a noise machine on to try to make it. The body will compensate for that. All right. Well, we've been going for about 40 minutes here. I appreciate all the great questions tonight. I know sleep's a big topic that a lot of people have some questions about or issues with. So I'm glad I could have shared some of the knowledge I picked up in the past week. I was binge listening to podcasts on the beach and by the pool down in sunny Cancun. I had planned to do a health retreat there, and because of what's going on in the world, that kind of got postponed, but decided I had the week blocked and was going to go anyway. So I soaked up as much light water magnetism that I could, and soaked up as much knowledge as I could on sleep and some of the other interesting things on longevity, which I'll be sharing over the next few weeks. So do appreciate you guys paying attention tonight and asking great questions. I did see somebody just came in there. Yeah, I'll definitely keep talking about these things. Somebody has to kind of cover some methods for lowering calcium scores. I can talk in some generalizations. For any patients that work with me in the office, I give them a very detailed plaque reversal plan. So again, thank you guys for joining tonight. And if you have any questions in the interim, just shoot me a message. And otherwise, I'll see you guys next Monday, 6 o'clock. Take care.